welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about booktubers or book lovers' habits that I sometimes see or read about or hear about that I just can't get behind. Obviously, I'm not trying to criticize anybody, to each their own. It's just funny because a lot of the things that other booktubers do and say I can relate to 100%, and then other things I'm like, that's completely different to how I would do it, or that's completely something I would never do. And I just thought it would be funny to do a video on it, so let's get started. Number one is buying book-related merchandise. I barely have enough money to afford, I actually don't have enough money to afford even the books I am buying, and the last thing I would want to do is spend money on merch that isn't even a book. Which is obvious because it's merchandise, not a book. I don't think I've ever bought a single book-related piece of merchandise. And even if I did, I can't remember. I do get why people do it, sort of. And I do think that those bookshelves that have like a lot of book-related stuff on them that are not books for decoration look pretty cool. I just don't see the space for that in my budget, basically. Number two is the habit of buying multiple copies of the same book. That would stress me the hell out. Again, why would I spend the money on another copy of the same exact book if I could spend it on a different book that I haven't actually read yet? Again, I do see why people do it for collection purposes, for buying different editions, for buying signed editions, etc., etc. But I just don't see the point. Never in my life would I buy a second copy of a book just because it's signed or because it's a special edition. Sure, I would buy that if I could instead of the other copy, but if I don't have it, then I don't have it. It's whatever. Next are TBR videos. And I know that I have done some in the past, but now I kind of only do them for readathons, because a readathon that's like a week or two is just kind of the only frame of time that I can sort of somehow tentatively predict what I'm going to be reading. I could never tell you a month in advance what I want to be reading, let alone what I will be reading. Like, that's impossible for me. I always decide, like, kind of spur of the moment, what am I in the mood for. Some books specifically, after finishing them, put me in a certain mood to read maybe a book of the same genre or of a completely different genre. Sometimes I like have a phase of fantasy or a phase of thrillers, or sometimes a phase of like contemporary romances. Next is buying all of the books of an entire series before ever having read the first one. I see a lot of people do this, and I don't understand it. I have done that like maybe once or twice, and it never worked out, ever. I think in all of the cases, I didn't like the books. I didn't even like the first one all that much. I will do it if I've read the first one and love it, and then I need the rest to kind of marathon. I get that. But before even having read a single page of the story, I cannot tell you if I'm gonna like an entire trilogy, or I don't know, quadrilogy, or a longer series, even a duology. Like, I don't know, and I don't want to spend all that money in advance. Especially with shipping being so fast these days, I probably will be able to survive 1 or 2 days of having to wait for the sequel if I really am that in love with it, but I just would not be able to buy like a whole series without even knowing anything. Next is having a TBR of like 200 plus books and still buying books all the time. I do get it. I do also have an extensive sort of, I mean, compared to others maybe not, but I do also have a TBR, like an entire shelf of books I haven't read yet, but they don't exceed like 100, if at all. I don't think they're actually way less than that. They're probably like 30 books I haven't read yet. But I do think if I had like 200, 300 books, I would maybe take a step back and try and evaluate. I mean, honestly, if you have the money, go for it. I'm not judging anyone for doing this. I wish I could do that. If I could afford it, I swear I would buy 1 million books a month while still maybe reading like 10 to 20. But I'm just saying that this is not something that I would get into or be able to do. Like, I couldn't justify it to myself. And finally, buying overhyped books without doing proper research. I have done that, unfortunately, a couple of times, and I've stopped doing that because it never works out. It's a very bad idea. It happens like all the time on BookTube. Like, there's one book that everybody seems to love. It's usually a YA fantasy. It will be on all of the major BookTube channels, and all of the smaller booktubers will buy it as well, and everybody will love it, and all the Goodreads reviews are like 4 or 5 stars. I have done that. I have bought those books before that where the reviews on Goodreads were all just like only things like amazing, best book ever, I died. Those kind of really critical, helpful reviews that you would read. And basically, I was always disappointed. These books never lived up to the hype for me. Because they can't. It's impossible. If 1,000,000 people tell you this book is the best thing they've ever read, no matter how good it is, it's very likely that you will be disappointed. If you only read the positive reviews or you only watch the positive reviews of that very book, you're never gonna find out what the negative points could be. So now if I want to buy an overhyped book or like a really hyped book, I go and I specifically look for negative reviews. I read the negative reviews because there will be some. They'll be hard to find, but there will be some. And it's just really helpful to try and get a fuller picture, because no matter how good the book, there are always people that will hate it, and it just distorts your perception of it if you only watch the positive ones, which can happen really easily with the hyped books basically. So these are all the book related habits that have either broken for myself or simply aren't for me basically. Again, no judgment to anyone who does this. Seriously, I'm just saying what I cannot get behind, and that is it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please like this video and click the subscribe button for more book related videos coming very soon. I post twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday, so look out for the next video. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media for more updates on what I am currently reading in between those dates. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you soon. Have a lovely week. Bye!